Mars in the first house. What does this mean? You're a person that likes to do things. And when you do things, you get noticed for what you do. And like the way you do things, sometimes you seem like a very passionate person, very exciting person to be around. You inspire others through your actions. You take action towards yourself, for yourself, and you make sure you get shit done. You know, you don't really, this person who has this type of energy in the first house, they're seen as a person that doesn't really think before they do. It's more so they take the actions and they don't worry about all the details and all the what is somebody else going to think about me if I do this. You know what I mean? And then there's some people who actually, take action and they do that, right? They think about things before they do it. Other people, they're seeing something and they're just like, I have to do this now. There's no time to waste. We can't sit here and think about things. We can't sit here and do nothing. We got to take action now. Even if it looks like we fail, at least we learn from our failures, and then we keep going. We keep, moving forward. As long as we ain't dead, we're still good. You know. So Mars in the first house under Aries, right? This person is definitely seen as a person that does things, gutsy things. They got the guts to go and call people out for what they ain't doing or whatever. They see something that's wrong, they're gonna get loud about it. But then they're gonna actually do something too. They ain't gonna just allow shit to be what it is. They're gonna take action, and they'll be the person that strikes first. They won't, you know, wait for somebody else to do it, because that's wasting time. If I wait for somebody else to do shit, nothing will ever get done. I see where, people mess up. I see where people are, indecisive, not good at making, taking action in what they gotta do. You know, maybe I gotta light a fire under somebody's ass, like somebody I care about. Maybe I have to, you know, just do it for them and then be like, why did I have to do that? I'm not even trying to do shit like that. I'm trying to focus on, because these guys, these people, these females and guys, you know, see something and they're direct. They focus all their energy on that. Anything else is like immaterial. You know, they don't like, people getting in their way either. They'll, they'll give them the what for. They'll probably fuck somebody up. You know, I'm doing this right now. I told you already, stay the fuck away from me. Or maybe they won't let you know, but they probably will because they're Aries and they're extrovert. So they'll give you a warning, but if don't heed calls to that warning, hey, you just leave them alone if they tell you to leave. If they say to leave them alone, leave them alone. Don't keep pecking at them and shit. Um, but that is Aries, Mars in the first house. You're seen for their actions, good and bad. But that's the thing. They don't care if they're seen in a negative way or a positive way. That's not what it's about. It's about actually doing what they got to do, what they've set out to do, that they intend to do. They do it and they achieve it. That's what really matters to this person. And at any cost, it didn't matter. They would like to not do, they don't want to be bound, but if they have to or get loud or get aggressive, they will. You know, it's just the nature of the beast. Now, somebody else that has Mars and Taurus, right, in the first house, they're seen as a person that doesn't take action. They're a bit slow. They don't know how to do things, or they don't know how to, just, get to work. They just, they're seen as a person who's lazy, maybe, or procrastinates a lot. But that's not the case, but that's how they're seen to everybody else, because this is Mars in the first house, correct? So this person is, seen as, you know, they lack motivation. They lack, you know, the guts to go out and, get what they want. They'll never get what they want. They're always sitting down, crying about things they're in their feelings about, you know, this or that, which may be the case, but maybe they ain't trying to do things that way. They're trying to not ruffle people's feathers too much. These people, right? They're gonna not necessarily think about others necessarily, but think, how am I gonna do things without being too like apparent about it? Like, I know what I accomplished, right? I don't need everybody to know that shit. My actions speak for themselves. I don't need the, you know, oh, that person's known for doing that. Oh, he has this because of this. I have this because I waited. I was patient, and I was also calculated, and I thought about how my actions could affect people before I did something. That's what this person does. You know, I could actually, do what that other person does and get active on somebody if I had to, but I'm going to choose not to because I just don't want to start that kind of conflict for myself. It's more so for themselves, and they don't want to, you know, do that. They just don't see the fucking need for it. Now it's like if somebody keeps, fucking with them, of course they'll get active. But like they let things happen for a while. Not even let things happen for a while. They're just more patient, And that's a Mars sign, somebody who's just more patient in how they move. They think about, okay, for me in the long run, is this going to affect me greatly, or is it going to affect me like positively or negatively, and towards themselves. And then that other person that we talked about first, the true Mars, type, is not going to care about that. Like, they let that happen afterward. It's more about getting the result, and like everything else doesn't matter. Their feelings are immaterial and everything else. As long as we get the results we need, we take action. We ain't indecisive. We ain't slow about it. This person's a little bit slower, more patient, you know. So those two might be at odds and shit, but this person's known as a person who likes to take their time when doing things, thinking about their feelings as they're going through it, and mostly like that. Like, my actions right now, I can do what that person's doing, or I can do another thing. I can wait and then, strike later. I can take these actions now and do something else. And they kind of calculate things out. They think a little bit before they do, and they think for themselves. You know, do I feel like doing what that guy does? And they might even, be, you know, active, in certain situations, but it's not like they're known for that. They're just known to be lazy procrastinators, but really it's them being patient and waiting for the right opportunity to strike. You know, when things are, better, they know that people are going to be upset if they do this or that. They're going to be like, okay, we'll wait until, or we'll be patient until we find somebody who, is cool enough to let us do what we need to do or whatever. They don't like to cause conflict. They won't want to be that. Now the next person, the Gemini in Mars in the first house, this person's seen as a person who likes to, talk a lot and like make plans that way, with others. You know, I want to do this, but I need these people, to do this. I like to formulate a plan that involves people. We're communicating as we like go through these plans. You know, this person basically thinks before they do, and not just thinks like on some basic shit, like for themselves, but like, how am I going to convince these people that we need to do this type of thing? That type of thing. You know, I will, you know, be able to, and these people learn this about themselves. I can sound intelligent about like how we're gonna go about doing this, and then people are gonna like follow the plan or not follow the plan. But if they follow the plan I have laid out, then things will move smoothly for me and my ends. But I actually need these people to like fall in line with what I got going on or what I'm trying to accomplish. They think before they do shit. And it's not even like I said, it's not like the tourists. They ain't thinking towards like their own self. They're like, how can I move other people around too? And how can I get this person to like see things my way and then help me out? I have to talk to them in a very logical way, sound like I know what I'm talking about, and then go about doing it, with this person. And we, work together towards these, goals we have. And then if it's like something that they have to do themselves, they're like, okay, I might ask somebody for advice on something, and I don't want to sound like an idiot. I want to like think about what I need, to ask this person, like how do I do this certain thing? And they're trying to like take action on some type of thing, right? And they're gonna like, think about everything before they, go and do it. you know they might be a little more hesitant, but like not really. It's just they're thinking so much before they take action. But once they take action, it's like, things get moving and shit, because like people are listening to like the plans they had laid out, the strategy they had cooked up. Um, and then like when they want help, they're always asking the right questions, and then they're getting the answers they need. So then they're able to then, swiftly move. It's like, seems like it's not gonna happen, but it does. It's just, they're thinking a little more and talking a little more before they do things, and then achieve things they need to achieve. um but the Mars and Cancer in the first house, this person gets really, you know they need that support too. But it's not like they necessarily need the talking and everything else. They just need somebody to be there for them and like really stand with them on the shit they gotta do. And it's like a hindrance to them. Like these people can find themselves like hurt a lot, um, by other people's actions, and then like not, or like understanding that other people like want to do other things, but like they're so hurt by it. And it's like, damn, I thought that we could, you know, work through shit together, and we had a deeper connection as we were trying to move towards these things. I thought we cared enough about each other to stick around each other to achieve these goals. And they don't like to, you know, slow shit down for themselves or other people. But sometimes they be, in their feelings, and like really in their feelings, like not just, oh my, like I'm sore from doing this and this and that. No, it's like I'm sore from doing this, and then like extra shit like, oh my God, if I wouldn't have done that, then, this, and really, like, they could get held back from like past mistakes and shit, and like really being hard on themselves and or other people who they may have cared about a lot. So that then deters them from doing other things, but at the same time, it could actually, you know, maybe not do that, but more so than not, it actually does deter these people from doing what they want to do. They're like, oh, in the past I've done this and that, and then these people have done this to me, and I just feel, and I feel deeply too that this is not going to work. They kind of get, um, man, they just have a negative mindset towards shit, a little bit. If somebody, and that's why they need somebody there, that can like keep them okay, make sure, they're all right, and then sometimes it's like this person is actually a person that does shit right and likes to achieve their goals, but it's like they ain't even doing that. They're caring about their loved ones and their friends and shit, and they're making sure that their friends are taken care of before themselves, and then that feeds into their depression. It's like, I'm doing this for my, this, my that, my that, my that. And then like they're getting upset at those people when it's like their fault because they're the ones who are so caring towards it. And then like that all amounts to them being like, God damn, I can never get shit done. But if they have that one person there that's like, okay, I see what you're saying and other things, right? We're gonna like work towards helping you, get what you want and get what you need, maybe this person might need somebody there to be like, okay, I take note that you care too much about these individuals. Now let's like focus on you. Like, let's not like be like because this person likes to care about other people. Let's not talk about so and so and their feelings towards, and like if you do that, then they may feel this way. No, no, no. What do you want? What are you trying to accomplish? And they need somebody like that in their life to like help them move forward. And if not, they're just kind of like the like support person, and that's like some of them like that though. Some of them don't mind that, and like don't mind that they're just the side character, the side piece, and they like themselves don't have anything. It's more they like helping the people they care about deeply, and that is enough for them. But it seems as though, and like even within themselves, they can sometimes still be very depressed and like very, you know, like, damn, I just can't get any more myself. I see everybody else doing this and that, but it's because they themselves are the ones, caring too much about, other people's shit. Um, Not lackadaisical. They just care too much about what other people are doing, and then they become like they suffer from. So now we got Mars and Leo in the first house. This person is very, bright as they go about doing things. And they are just like, what they're doing when they're doing it. You know what they're good at. They shine brightly, and everybody, gravitates towards that kind of energy. It's typically positive, but it can also, draw in, unwanted attention, and but these people know that about themselves. Like, they know that they're, good at this certain type of thing and achieving these certain things by doing this type of work, or whatever, and like having the guts to go out and do it and not be afraid. They don't care about the people, talking shit, on the side or whatever. They understand they're jealous because they can't do what they're doing, and they're just gonna be like, well, they're gonna keep doing what they do because that's what they need to do. To not do the shit they strive to do, or what they see, their vision, and like attack what they need to attack, and they do it in a way that like I said, they bring people to them too through their actions. So like, you could be good at sports, you could be the best person at I don't know, creating certain content, or you could be the best person at like, this or that, and it's like known that you're good at doing that shit. That comes with, unwanted attention, or people who are just jealous of you. You just keep doing that, and you already know that you're gonna keep doing that. They they're it didn't matter what they believe or they thought, or like, because you're taking actions towards yourself, and like with the Mars energy, that's what it's all about. You taking action for yourself, and achieving the goals you want to achieve. It ain't about, you know, that person's take on what you're doing, and it's not about none of that. That's not what it's about. That part was immaterial. you know you just have to, do it, and you'll continue to do it, because you constantly, like, within yourself that you can, accomplish things, and you have the drive, the energy, the passion to do that. And you also understand that you'll be seen too. And if you don't understand that, you definitely do. If it's in the first house, Mars and Leo in the first house, you know that you are seen for your actions, and people, take note of all kind of shit. And it's like, if you're off one day, they'll still take note, and you'll be like, damn, you could even be down on yourself, but you ain't down for long, because you know that you're that person that is kind of the example of like how to be, if you know what I mean, like how to go about getting your goals. So you ain't gonna let that get you down for too long. Okay, I might have been like not well that day, but oh well, I'm still like getting my shit done, you know, and that's how it is, love it or hate it, I'm gonna achieve my goals in it, kingly, queenly way. You're gonna know what I do. I don't even have to say anything. This is Mars, remember? My actions are loud. So now, Virgo in Mars. Now, these people tend to overthink things before they do things. But like, it's not a bad thing though, because like they think about things, and they do everything they do a specific way. Um, and then like not doing that can really like ruffle their feathers. I do this specifically day to day. I do this specifically when doing this activity. I, laid out in my head before I like take action how this is gonna play out. Given that these, things, go right and everything else. Now, if things don't play out that way, this person can be very upset. You know, um, and it does hold them back a little bit. Um, But like for the most part, it don't, because guess what? They have the ability to think, which is, a good thing, but at the same time, that slows things down when it comes to you trying to achieve your goals and shit, right? Because you're thinking about every little detail beforehand, and then you're not like taking action. Like those people who are seen as idiots and fools are actually taking action on things, and that's why people like them and other stuff. Um, Now they are not the smartest people, and this, but like, and you're taking note of that, and you're like, I don't want to go about doing things that way. I have, and like you are like very methodical about doing shit, um, and then like some days you're like, you accomplish your goals, and you know that you can, do it like that again and other things or whatever. But then and you have the ability to adapt to situations as well. But sometimes it's just like, damn, I'm in a rough spot, and I don't know why, when I've already, you know, thought of things, and took the time to do that. Sometimes you don't have to do as much work in your mind. You just have to like put your feet to the ground and do it. And you have the ability to do that as a Virgo in Mars. You're just seen as the methodical person when taking action. Um, so Mars and Libra in the first house. Now, I don't have Mars and Libra in the first house, but I know about Mars and Libra. But Mars and Libra, this person, they think before taking actions too. They say, okay, if I'm like in an area or I'm around people, how can I, talk to these people, um, see, away from myself, like through these people. Um, Basically, I'm gonna have to talk to people to get what I need, and I have to do it, a certain way. It might take time for me to accumulate to achieve my goals. It might take some time, but like in the long run, I'll have good relationships with people around me because I like took the time to talk to them, ask what I could do for them. And then over time, I've created and like, cause these people are typically like, again, not the type to just do things, not caring about, you know, and like really, considering other people before taking action is what this person does. So I don't want this person to think of me as that kind of way if I move like this. I'll tell them, or I'll let them know, or I'll tell them after the fact, or whatever. I'll let things be said before I do things so people don't get their feathers ruffled. I'm gonna talk to these people and these people, see what I can do for them, see what they could then do for me after I've done things. Um, and I like to like just be smooth and cool about the way I like move. You know, it's not a means of getting back at anybody or even, causing conflict for myself. You know, people might not like the way, that is, but, you know, I don't care if they want to talk about it or they want to, figure that shit out and they insist on, being, fucked up towards me, then we can, do something about it. But I'm not, doing that. I am staying cool, doing what I have to do for myself. And I'm thinking about what I do before I do it because I don't want to cause disturbances and shit. I really don't want to cause disturbances. If I have to, I kind of even feel some type of way about it. But like, I don't let that slow me down because this is cool, right? This is win. So like when we planned our strategy out, we go and we move and we do that. But we need people, and we think about the people that are may or may not be involved in what's going to happen before we take action. That slows people down, right? That's kind of an indecisive action, right? But then like it's like, I'm gonna do this because I feel like I can too. Like I think about it and then I also feel that I can do this thing. I'll think about the people that are involved and then also I'm like, do I myself feel like doing this? Yes. If no, maybe we'll do it later. And it's like, that, kind of, this person tries to find balance in themselves too. Different ways. I know that because I am kind of one of those types. Um, but it's not like this person can achieve what they want. They just, know that they have to talk a little bit, you know, be a little more, clear and cool about what they want to accomplish, and then they just have to execute, which they do have the ability to execute. Now, this next person definitely executes their plan. See, this is a person driven by their desires. We know this to be Scorpio, right? They they can tell what like truly lies within. Like I know like people see the actions that are taken, right? But this person can see like the potential actions that can be taken, or like things that have been, actions that have, you know, aren't so apparent to other people. I don't know how they do this. They're their own people and shit, right? But and this is a Mars sign, right? So anybody could have this typically, you know, really. And this is Mars and Scorpio. So this person is driven by their desires, and they're gonna take action towards what they desire. Even if it gets somebody else, hurt or other things, they don't care. And then and it's like you can sense with these people that they are willing to do anything to get what they want. So they're gonna do that, you know, and they don't care about other people's feelings towards shit. You know, it's more like, why aren't you caring about me? And like you can sense that with some of these people. It's like, why don't you care about what I'm trying to accomplish? you know, and they get pissed about that. I have been through this and that. You want me to care about everything else and what these people are doing, and no, what about me? You're neglecting me. You are, you know, you're one that actually can sees and follows other people and fucks around on what other people got going on before you take care of yourself. So you're somebody I don't want to associate with. You're somebody I can't, pull into my plans to help my ends out or help what I need to get accomplished. You know, Strong desires, very willful individuals, these people are. You know, Mysterious because you don't know like what they have done to accomplish what they, gain. You don't know like who they have like associated with to get what they want, and all kind of shit. But you can like sense with this person that they are willing to do things for themselves, you know. And then like that also goes towards the people they care about, because this person's actually a caring person too, but like not towards everyone now. Like I said, they don't like people who don't have guts, and they actually look into the gastric tracts, right? Like it's not just the apparent actions, it's like what drives those apparent actions. Like have you been doing that your whole life, and what have you gone through? What kind of transformations have you had in your life to where, and they're trying to they low key look for like people who have like a certain level of wisdom as well, or have the, potential to be, you know, achieve their goals as well. They don't like to surround themselves with shit like that. They don't want their ends being used towards other people's ends, typically. Now, if they care about somebody and they like put time and effort into like a relationship, now that's different. They will, go and they will even, go to die for these people. These people are those kind of people, you know, but only if they have that deep, deep, true connection with those people. If not, then they're going to care about themselves and they'll kill people to like keep themselves right. And that's how these people move. They got real guts, like for real. Um, Now, Mars in Sagittarius, this person, right? They move a little bit sporadically, but they don't care about other people in the way they view them, really. You know, they understand that people will be in their feelings about what they, you know, greatly, want to do or whatever, right? I want to do this because it excites me. I want to do this to get these people, spirits up. And they know how to do that, right? They know how to like move, and it ain't like even methodically. It's just like they know what gets people excited. They know what gets people, you know, ready to do things. They know how to grab people's attention, the right way. this is a sign that is also of wisdom, right? But they like to, be flashy about it a bit more. Now, not all of these people like to do it, but like they will be seen for their actions again because this is like, Sagittarius and Mars. Not a bad placement to have, by the way, but one might look at this person and be like, they fuck around too much. They do this, they do that. Like, how do they have so much? It's because they know how to just, they know how, like, they know what gets people, excited, right? And that, I mean, people. It's not like they're focused on one specific individual. You know, they're focused. They see all kind of opportunities. So, like, if I do this, then most people are gonna not like that. But maybe I want to do that. Maybe I do want to ruffle everybody's feathers. But maybe I don't. Maybe I want to present myself in a way that is, fun and oh, you can come here and enjoy me, that type of thing, and enjoy what I'm trying to accomplish, in my life, and you can be a part of it too, and kind of like bring people in on what they got going on, but they also see and understand that other people won't like that, and then they understand that people will like them if they do that. But it's like they're not thinking about it, they just know, and then they don't really care. Again, they care about how they're seen as they're going about doing things. They want to present themselves in a certain way. They want people to understand the way they move, and it's not the same as other people. They're willing to do some things for people, and even look a fool. They don't mind it. They don't care. They'll do some stupid shit. They don't mind. Because to them, it's like, living life is, living life. People are going to view you a certain way no matter what you do. So you might as well do whatever you want to do, you know, and like all kind of ways, because that's mutable fire, right? And they like don't like the hesitation and shit like that, so they're gonna like do it and not like care about like anybody else's feelings towards their actions. Like I could be staring at them and saying, "Oh, that was a stupid fucking move," and then they're like, "Well, I did what I did. You didn't have the guts to do that. So fuck you. Why are you gonna judge me for that when you ain't even, doing anything yourself?" This is how those people weren't. Um, Now the next person is Capricorn, Mars in the first house. Now these people are seen as very ambitious, and they don't do well with the like fuckery. Now they can get down on some like fuckery type shit and be loud and be, obnoxious and like, cause problems for people. But these people like to, and like it ain't even like they think too much. Like don't give them too much credit. They don't think too much. Because this is Mars and Capricorn. They just need shit to be done for themselves and then for, towards the people they care about. You know, I have the ability to, and I know that because this is like earth signs, right? I know that I have the ability to do what I need to do. It doesn't matter what society says, really. I understand that these rules are in play or whatever, but I have to, do the best I can to achieve my goals, and I have to do it in a timely manner. I have a sense of urgency too. I can't, not have these things at this time. That'll be letting myself down. That'll be letting other people down too. They kind of put like a lot on themselves. It seems like, very ambitious and, driven individuals too. But they like, they don't care about like the attention that is brought. They understand that with time they will have things, and like that's how their attention will be brought. because they care about status and shit, right? So it's not about, oh, my actions make people feel, or I'm gonna be so the best at this that that might be, I might be the best at that or whatever, but I'm gonna do and take actions towards what I need to do, right? Accumulate all these things in reality, real things. And then eventually, they'll see my success and they'll be like, damn, he actually you know, put his feet to work. He accomplished these things. He's now the best person in this field of work, or she's now the best person in this field of work, and she's, or he or she has, accumulated this amount of wealth or this amount of things. They had to, put these things aside to accomplish those goals, but they didn't care because at some point they were then able to do those things, and they knew they were able to do those things because these people are doers too. They're a little more, not loud, but also loud. Cause like it's like the things they accomplish from what they do. Because this is earth signs, right? Because people of earth signs like things. So it's like if I'm a person that knows they can do some things, right, and I know that I have the ability to acquire these things, why am I letting anything affect me? I need to do it. I might be pissed about my situation, but I have to like do it. They put a lot on themselves. It's like, what am I not doing? Right? What am I not, and then they like do that, you know, and they, work through it and everything else. But eventually they get there. And sometimes it don't take them that long. Sometimes it don't. Sometimes it does, depending on the individual. But they're ambitiously driven. Um, Towards the things they want to acquire in this life, and then they then also are known for that, and they know they're known for like the work they do, and that they know that they can help anybody out like with anything they need done. You need me to help you out with your work, then I can do that, but I might be a little bit messed up because guess what, I need to be getting something from that too, or I need to know that I'm helping somebody out who can actually do things for themselves too. you know, I ain't just gonna do this and help you out. I ain't gonna waste my time essentially. These people don't do that. Now, Mars and Aquarius in the first house, these people are seen as people that, they kind of like to you know, think about things before they go about doing things too, as this is wind, right? So they will not just think, but like communicate within like the society and be like, okay, well, if I do this, I know that these things could inhibit me or could like help me out depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. I could think outside of the box a little bit. I can do things a little bit differently because I have a mind like that. But like it's not even that. It's like I need to accomplish these things, but I need people to help me accomplish these things. And they think in those terms before they move. I'm a smart person, so like who do I have to like, talk to get these things rolling? Who do I have to make connections with? You know, who's open minded enough to hear calls my ideas about what I want to accomplish? That type of thing. And that's how these people move. And they understand that, they want to come off in a way that is, intelligent before, making any moves and other things, and, convincing others that what they got going on is worth, helping to like make come to fruition and other things. So they'll talk a little bit before taking action. You know, they have their own way of thinking about things, but they know that there's people out there who will, actually listen and jive with them before they take action on whatever they got to take action on. We're trying to accomplish this type of thing, but we need these people to believe or hear us on this, and like together we can make these people hear us, and make things happen. You know, off of that, and it's possible because the possibilities are out there. It's not a matter of necessarily closing ideas off, but like it's also not, and this is what like slows these people down. They could get too many ideas and thinking about things too much and then planning for these people and these people, but it's more so if they stick to like what their idea is, and what they're trying to accomplish, and then they put the right people and they network correctly, you know they'll accomplish what they gotta accomplish. They just have to talk a little bit more, and they need to, sound, you know, very intelligent before they, know what they, want to accomplish with what they're trying to, obtain in this life. Um, but last but not least, this person is Pisces and Mars, right? In the first house. So Pisces and Mars in the first house. This person's seen as emotionally much like Scorpio and Cancer, but they like to also seize opportunities, like Sagittarius a little bit, but not in the same manner necessarily. They're kind of a little more laid back, or not so loud about how they do shit. It's more so seen like afterwards, or like actions speak louder than words. They don't have to get loud about shit at all. They can effectively, play to people's emotions to obtain what they want. Now, I've come into this person's life and I've, blessed them with my, energy, my vibes, and other things. Now they'll feel like they have to, help me out. Sometimes it don't work to their advantage though. And then, but like they try not to get upset because they see other opportunities too. So they're like, okay, well, that person didn't appreciate what I did. I understand that there are, and because these people, I wouldn't say they're the smartest people, but they just have a greater understanding of people in a deeper way. So they're like, okay, well, that's fine. I will go and I will find other people who, will, you know, help me towards what I need. Um, and then, I'm creative too. So I have that going for me. I know how to seem interesting to people. Very, fun to people, and like have people, have a like unique aura about me. Um, Almost mysterious, more like dreamy, type of aura about me, and people are like, I work with this person, I can accomplish my goals, and it'll make my dreams come true. She'll make my dreams come true. And you have that type of, creative drive to like be like, okay, I know that people go through this in life, and I want to, be there for them and help guide them through, but in doing that, it's like gonna help my ends out because I know how to creatively move and make this person, or help this person to help my situation out after I've helped them feel better, you know. And that's what that person does. They move like that. They're gas tracks, they have guts to do things, and they'll do stupid things too, but it's like they're more so considered about how creative can I be? How can I get people, feeling different ways towards me? Good, bad, whatever. but like for the most part, it's gonna help benefit me in the end. You know, I try to, do that. Having a little bit of compassion for somebody else can actually help this person, in many ways too. They're kind of like, they move with wisdom, because they like to, find other people. These people are, I wouldn't say they're people pleasers necessarily, but they can like seem that way. They have that kind of like way of coming off as something else and then really being, this way. But you have to like know these people and shit to like know what like they actually are, you know. But like that's their superpower and shit. That's how they run shit on people, but it works to their advantage, and then it also works towards other people's advantage too. But like it's mostly for themselves, and that is Mars in the first house for all the 12 zodiac signs. Be cool, calling on the corner.